For your meal prep lunches this week, how about this one-pot sausage and pepper pasta? Every ingredient from this recipe is going straight in this pot, so that way you don't have to do any extra dishes. It's not that difficult to make, and half the time this one spends cooking is unattended, so it doesn't take too much effort. Each serving has about 681 calories with 51 grams of protein. Great flavor, low effort, only a couple of dishes to wash? How can you beat that? Here's how you make it. We're going to do a little bit of chopping to start out, and then we can get to cooking. Take one medium-sized onion or 200 grams worth and cut it into a small dice. Next is one medium-sized red bell pepper or about 150 grams worth. You can remove the stem and the seeds and cut this into a large dice. I like to have slightly bigger chunks for this pepper so that we can see the red color in the final dish. You'll also need 3 cloves of garlic or roughly 1 tablespoon or 15 grams worth. Give it a smack and then mince it up. The last bit of chopping to do is for about 3 ounces or 100 grams of baby spinach. When you place this spinach into the pot over the heat, it's going to wilt down to almost nothing, so if you don't want to chop it, you don't even really have to. I chop mine into smaller pieces though because, to be honest, spinach creeps me out. It's disgusting and I hate it, but if I cut it up into small pieces, it will be less noticeable, and the only reason I have it in this recipe anyway is for the nutrition, so for that reason alone, I'll suck it up and include it. With all of our chopping now finished, we can begin cooking. We're going to start by making our sausage. For this, I'm going to use 2 pounds or 908 grams of 90% lean ground pork. If you're unable to find pork this lean, or maybe you don't eat pork, you can substitute for ground turkey or ground chicken. Into a large pot over medium-high heat, add in 1 tablespoon or 15 grams of oil, and then your 2 pounds of ground meat. For reference, I am using an 8-quart pot here. Spread the meat out across the surface of the pot and allow it to brown up and cook for a couple of minutes. We're going to do things a little bit backwards in this recipe in order to keep everything contained to one pot. Usually I would add all of my sausage seasonings to this meat before I cooked it in order to allow that flavor to penetrate deep into the meat. I want this to be as easy as possible and I don't want to spend the time or the effort to do that, so that's why it's all going straight in this pot. Once you've started to achieve a bit of browning on the underside of that meat, you can start to break it up and move it around, and then we'll add in all of our sausage seasonings. To the meat, add 2 teaspoons or 4 grams of ground fennel seeds, 2 teaspoons or 6 grams of smoked paprika, 1.5 teaspoons or 4.5 grams each of onion powder and garlic powder, 1.5 teaspoons or 9 grams of salt, 1 teaspoon or 1 gram of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon or 2 grams of red pepper flakes, and 1 teaspoon or 3 grams of black pepper. A couple of notes on these seasonings. If you can't find ground fennel in your store, you can just buy the fennel seed and then put it into the blender. This is what I do because I don't like to see the whole fennel seed when I'm eating. It's a similar thing to the spinach for me. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies. And then for the red pepper flakes, if you don't like spicy food, leave this ingredient out. Once all the seasonings are mixed in and that meat is about 90% of the way finished, create a well in the center of your pot and add in an additional 1 tablespoon or 15 grams of oil. Into that oil, you can add all of your diced onions and red bell peppers and allow this to cook for a couple of minutes to soften and color up. You can stir them around a bit to cover them in oil, but don't mix them into the meat just yet. After 2 or 3 minutes, once the onions have started to change color, you can add in all of your minced garlic and mix everything in the pot together. Once everything's mixed in, you can add in about 3 tablespoons or 45 grams of tomato paste. Mix this into the meat and vegetables and allow it to caramelize a bit over the heat. Then once that tomato paste has slightly dried out, you can add in 1 15-ounce can or about 420 grams of crushed tomatoes. Mix everything in the pot together until it is well combined, and then dump in 10 ounces or 280 grams of dried penne pasta. I like penne for this recipe because it's a bit sturdier than some of the other noodle shapes, so it stands up well over the course of the cooking. Once it's all mixed in, you can add in 2.5 cups or 600 grams of water and ensure that all of the noodles are completely submerged underneath the water line. Next, you can turn the heat up on your stove and bring this pot to a boil. Once you reach that point, cover it with a lid, reduce the heat to low, and allow this to simmer for about 12 to 15 minutes. And by the power of TV magic, my 12 to 15 minutes is up instantly, so I can grab one of my noodles and make sure it is cooked through. If it's not, let it continue cooking for a bit longer, and if it is, you can move on to the next step. Add in about 1/2 cup or 40 grams of grated Parmesan, and then all that spinach we chopped up earlier. It's going to look like a lot of spinach when you first put it in, but once you stir everything together, it's going to wilt fairly quickly. The last ingredient I'm going to add is 1/4 cup or 60 grams of half and half. Now I'm using half and half instead of full heavy cream just to save a bit on fat, but if you wanted this to taste even better, just reach for the full cream. You can also salt to your taste preferences at this step, and then once you've got it all mixed together, it's ready to go. This recipe is going to yield you 5 servings, so you can lay out 5 of your meal prep containers and divide the contents of the pot evenly between the 5. If you want each serving to be higher or lower in calories, you can always adjust by dividing into more or less servings. As I have this recipe written, if you divide it into 5 servings, each serving will have about 681 calories and 51 grams of protein. If you decide to change how many servings you make, you can take the total nutrition of this recipe, divide by how many servings you make, and you'll come up with a new total for how many calories and macronutrients are in your dishes. Once cooled, throw in the lids and move it into the fridge, and you've got lunch ready for the week. As I publish this video, it is September 28th, and my Sundays at this time of the year are filled with watching football. The last thing I want to do is spend time in the kitchen. So having a recipe like this one-pot sausage and pepper pasta, where it only takes about 10 minutes to prep the vegetables, another 10 minutes to cook the sausage, and then from there it's kind of hands-off for the rest of the cooking process, it's perfect for this time of the year for me. So if you are like me and you want something fast and simple for your meal prep this week, give this one a try. The full written version of the recipe is linked down below in the description. That's published on my website, mealprepmanual.com. Now like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not yet, or else I'm going to get fired. Bye.